The restaurant was full that Friday evening, the kind of warm, golden-lit place in downtown Chicago where businessmen closed deals over expensive wine and couples celebrated anniversaries with soft candlelight. It was the kind of place where people came to feel important. And Marcus Haddad felt very important that night. He sat at the center table with two colleagues, his tailored black suit crisp against his broad shoulders, his laughter loud enough to fill the room. He had just closed a multi-million-dollar contract and was in the mood to celebrate, to be seen, to remind the world that he had arrived. Marcus had grown up in a Lebanese immigrant household, worked hard, clawed his way to the top of a real estate firm, and wore his success like armor. But somewhere along the way, the hunger that had once kept him humble had curdled into arrogance. He had forgotten where he came from. And tonight, that forgetting would cost him something he didn't even know he still had. Her name was Sophie. She was 26 years old, with tired eyes and quick hands and a red apron she had worn every Friday night for the past 3 years at Bellamy's. She was working her way through a nursing program at a community college, splitting rent with 2 roommates in a small apartment on the north side, sending money back to her widowed mother in rural Tennessee every month without fail. She smiled at every table. She memorized orders without writing them down. She refilled water glasses before anyone noticed they were empty. She was the kind of person who made a room better simply by being in it, though most people at places like Bellamy's never bothered to notice. Sophie approached Marcus's table with a bottle of their best Cabernet, ready to pour with the careful grace she had trained herself to carry no matter how long or hard the shift had been. Marcus glanced up at her, then leaned toward his colleague and said something in Arabic, something sharp and dismissive, something that ended with both men snickering behind their glasses. His words translated roughly to this, that she was just another pretty face serving drinks to people she would never be, that her kind smiled because they had no other options, that women like her existed to fill the background of better people's lives. He said it casually. Carelessly. The way people say cruel things when they are certain they won't be understood. If you believe that kindness is always worth fighting for, that dignity belongs to every human being regardless of where they come from or what they do for a living, please like this video right now, drop a comment below, share it with someone who needs to hear this story today, and subscribe to this channel. Stories like this one are why we're here. Sophie paused. Just for a breath. Her hands were still steady on the bottle, her posture still composed, but something shifted behind her eyes. Something quiet and ancient and deeply certain of itself. She set the bottle down gently on the table, looked at Marcus directly, and then she spoke. She spoke in Arabic. Fluent, native-sounding, unhesitating Arabic. She told him, in his own language, that she had understood every single word. That she had grown up in a missionary family that spent 7 years in Lebanon, that she had learned Arabic as a child, that she still dreamed in it sometimes. She told him that she did not serve tables because she had no other options. She served tables because she was building something, and because honest work had never once been beneath her. She told him that her mother had raised her to see every person as worthy of dignity, and that she genuinely hoped someone, someday, would remind him of the same lesson. Then she picked up the bottle, finished pouring his wine without spilling a single drop, smiled warmly at the entire table, and walked away. The silence that fell over Marcus was unlike anything he had felt in years. It wasn't embarrassment, exactly, though his face had gone pale beneath his olive complexion. It was something closer to recognition. Like a mirror had been held up in a place he hadn't expected one, and the face staring back at him wasn't the successful, confident man he believed himself to be. It was someone smaller. Someone he thought he had left behind long ago but had only hidden. His colleague tried to laugh it off, but Marcus couldn't. He stared at his wine glass, at the deep red swirling inside it, and he thought about his mother. He thought about how she had worked as a seamstress in a small Detroit apartment when they first arrived in America, how she had smiled at every customer even when her fingers bled from the needle, how she had told him as a boy that a man without gratitude is a man without a foundation. He thought about how many years had passed since he had truly listened to her voice. He did something then that surprised even himself. He found the courage that pride always tries to bury, stood up from his chair, and walked across the restaurant to where Sophie was taking another table's order. He waited. He did not interrupt. And when she turned to him, he looked at her with none of the armor he had walked in with and said, in Arabic, that he was deeply sorry. That what he had said was wrong. That she had shown him more grace in 30 seconds than he had shown anyone in years. He told her that the way she had responded, with composure and truth and no cruelty in return, had undone something in him that had been knotted tight for a very long time. Sophie looked at him for a moment. She was not without the sting of what had happened. She was human, and his words had landed in a real place. But she was also someone who had been taught that the point of being hurt was never to make others feel the pain in return. The point was to stay whole. The point was to keep your hands open. She thanked him for the apology. She meant it. What happened next neither of them could have predicted. Marcus returned to his table but could not return to the evening as it had been. He asked the manager for Sophie's name before he left. Not in the way men sometimes do with ulterior motives, but in the way a person does when they have witnessed something that deserves acknowledgement. He left her a tip that covered what would have been 3 of her regular shifts. Attached to it was a handwritten note on a Bellamy's napkin that read, "You are building something. I hope it's magnificent. I'm sorry I forgot how to see it." Sophie stood at the service counter and read that note twice. Her eyes filled, though she held the tears back with the practiced steadiness she had learned from years of carrying things quietly. She folded the napkin and placed it in the pocket of her red apron, close to her chest, where important things are kept. Months passed. Sophie finished her nursing program. She accepted a position at a children's hospital on the south side of Chicago, where she worked night shifts with the same unhurried grace she had brought to every table at Bellamy's. She kept that folded napkin in a small wooden box on her nightstand. Not because she needed the money, but because she needed the reminder that one honest moment between 2 strangers can leave a mark worth keeping. Marcus changed, too. Not dramatically, not in the way stories sometimes promise with a neat and tidy resolution. He changed the way real people change, slowly and imperfectly, in the small daily choices that no one ever sees. He called his mother more. He stopped speaking about people like they were scenery. He started noticing the names of waitstaff, the ages of cleaning crews, the tiredness behind the eyes of people who served him. He carried the memory of that Friday night not as shame but as instruction. He never forgot the woman in the red apron who spoke his language back to him. Who refused to be made small. Who poured his wine without shaking and walked away with her dignity intact. He never forgot what it felt like to be seen through, and what it felt like, afterward, to begin the slow and necessary work of becoming someone worth seeing.